I wanted to tell the story about how my soulmate almost died. My soulmate is my dog Taro. I think that a lot of people who don't have a pet will not understand the feeling of almost losing your family, having them around you, lively playing one day, and then the next day they are almost dead. 2020 was the year that I got into my burns accident, and maybe some of you who are watching this don't know, but I had a fourth degree burn on my entire face and on my neck, and thankfully I was able to heal. And my dog Taro has seen me through so many seasons of life. She literally witnessed my burn accident. She was there through all of my breakups. She was there through all of the times where I was lonely, and she taught me so much about patience, because if you know Taro, she's a very sassy, spoiled princess, to be very honest. But at the same time, she has this very loving, unwavering kind of love and loyalty, and she's not a very clingy kind of dog. So she's taught me a lot about giving space and respecting space. Taro saved me from a lot of trouble simply because of the amount of sacrifice and time you have to dedicate to a dog and just taking care of them. Oh, it's so windy today. So we've been in France for a while now, about a month, and we were on a trip to Normandy, and it was just like a 2-day city break situation where it was just Taro and I. And everything was fine. Life was just as per normal. Taro is turning 6 years old in June. And so I always kind of have this perception that Taro is a very sturdy, invincible dog, because she's never gotten really sick. Like, she's never had any serious health issues or anything like that. We went hiking and she had played with other dogs, whatever, and she was really active. Then we were on the way home, and she usually eats once a day. So I just fed her meal as per usual at the usual timing at 5 p.m. And Taro loves car rides. She always looks out whenever I open the window for fresh air, and she just loves car rides. She would literally sit upright for 2 hours just to look at the sights outside. At this time, it was already sunset and it was quite dark already. And I looked back just to check up on her, and her head was drooping like this. And I immediately knew that something was wrong. Taro never kind of like droops like that. So maybe I thought, okay, she's probably just really tired from a huge day out. It's fine. And I just felt in my gut that something was really wrong. And so we were on the highway and I just stopped at a random place, and it was unfortunately in the nettle, I think it's called nettle bushes, and you can get stung by those bushes, and it was really painful. And I carried her out of the car because she wasn't responsive and she was excessively drooling. Like, there was a whole pool of drool just on the car seat, and I just knew that, like, I didn't know what this was, but I knew that this was not normal. I decided to text the Airbnb host, who thankfully it was able to call the emergency vet. Once we got to the vet, Taro wasn't able to lie down on her belly, and what she actually got was something called gastric torsion, which is a fatal condition in especially big dogs and dogs that have deep chests. So dogs like a standard poodle, Bernese Mountain Dogs, Great Dane. We managed to get her to the vet within 2 hours, and gastric torsion is so fatal that the longer you wait, the lower the chances of your dog surviving, and it's just a very, very painful condition for dogs. And I also noticed that her belly was extremely bloated, so the symptoms were excessive drooling, and when I touched her belly, it was just rock hard, and it just was like inflated. It didn't look very exaggerated, but I just knew that this was not my dog's normal state. Hello, it is now a week later and we are now in Barcelona. I realized that I didn't mention all of the symptoms that I was seeing Taro experience. So there were pale gums as well, and second of all, she had what's called non-productive vomiting. So it's either they try and vomit and they will keep retching and sort of burping quite violently, but nothing comes out. It's either that, or it can also be white froth that comes out. And her eyes were also just rolling back, and I've never seen her that unresponsive before. We immediately did a scan, and it was just a really scary moment for me, because it just felt like my life just suddenly turned around, suddenly, randomly, for no reason. So we did a scan, and the vet said that this is a really serious thing and we need to operate on her quickly or she is going to die. And the surgeon thankfully came, and it was like midnight at this time, and I'm so grateful that he came because this is such a time sensitive surgery. I opted to just stay at the clinic because I just couldn't go home. As Tara was about to go into the surgery room, I asked the surgeon what was the survival rate of this kind of surgery, and he said "pas beaucoup," which is not a lot, and that was devastating. Yeah, the trees agree and the wind agrees. I had to stop filming for a while because I just feel really overwhelmed talking about this. I remember I had Taro's red collar and her leash, and I was just sitting on the chair in the dark because it was midnight and no one was around, just staring at the collar and the leash on the ground right below me, because there was just nothing I could do. There was nothing that I could control, and I'm just so glad that I had the resources to be able to do the surgery, and the fact that it was in Normandy and we got really good vets and surgeons to perform this surgery. This was in Normandy and not in Paris. The cost was a hell of a lot cheaper. The night of her surgery was probably one of the worst nights ever, and I just remember like texting like my mom, my family, my partner, like, you guys all need to mentally prepare yourself that Taro's gonna die. And Taro has been such an ambassador for my family. Like, she feels like the glue to my family, and if it wasn't for her, I think a lot of things in my life would be very much different. I think I would be a much more different person because of how much she's taught me. I was just really preparing myself for bad news that my dog had passed away on the surgery table, but thankfully it went really well. So I actually had no idea that gastric torsion was a thing in big dogs, and I want to make this video because I want anyone who's watching to be aware of this if they have a dog, especially a big dog, and to even perform gastropexy, which is a surgery to prevent GDV, and it can be done once the dog is neutered or spayed and is above 6 months old. And if I knew about this back then, I definitely would have done it for Taro, because I just know that she was in so much pain, and the vet did confirm that this is in fact an extremely painful condition for dogs. And things were very uncertain because the 48 hours after the surgery is very, very critical, and they could still pass away within this 48-hour post-surgery window. It's such a huge surgery for them, and she was hooked up on IVs, on drips and all of that, and she looked just completely out of it, and I had to delete the photos and videos off my phone because it's just so painful to look at. It was really hard seeing my dog like that because she's like my child and my soulmate, and just this being that I believe was sent to me to just teach me lessons that I otherwise would not have learned, and just bind my family together, and teach me what it means to sacrifice. So yeah, it's been 3 weeks and I was determined to make a YouTube video about this because I just hope that I can raise awareness about this. So right now, Taro is no longer going to be eating just once a day. She's going to be eating twice a day. That is the goal, because I had to feed her 5 times a day and then cutting down to 4 and then 3 and then 2. So 2 is the final goal after at least a month, and she has to be on a kind of pate diet until then. And she can't eat any solid food. There are things that you can do as a dog owner to try and prevent GDV, especially when your pet has not undergone gastropexy before. Number one, avoid letting them gulp and drink lots and lots of water after eating, because that increases the chances of bloat. Second of all, do not be like me and feed your dog just once a day. So my cousin feeds her dogs, well, they are small dogs, just once a day. So I kind of assumed that, oh, okay, once a day is fine, but no, feed your dog twice a day. Third of all, I found that using a slow feeder really works, because Taro tends to kind of just eat really quickly, and obviously that increases the chances of bloat. So invest in a good slow feeder, and I got her one that apparently slows down eating 10 times. So, you know, like the more complicated the slow feeder, I feel, the better. And also licking releases happy chemicals in their brains. So that's really good. And I don't know if I was at the fourth one. I think it's number 4. Number 4, avoid vigorous exercise or lots of high stress situations like car rides directly before or after meals. I think that is about it for me in terms of what you can do, especially if you are thinking of getting a dog, and a big dog. Like, it's such a big commitment, and it's not something that anyone should take lightly. You really need the resources, especially when your dog gets into emergency, life-threatening situations like that and you want to save their life. So yeah, that's it from editing Charlene. This is my story about how I almost lost Taro, and I hope that this helps someone out there. And if your dog has experienced gastric torsion before, I'm really sorry, and I know how painful it is. Taro, say hi. She's got her little patch from her IV. So that's it from me. I'll see you guys soon.